Good morning, good afternoon. My name is Alka Halberg. I am part of the cohesive marketing team. I'll be assisting the team today with the webinar as moderator. We will give it another 30 to 60 seconds to allow all the attendees to join us on this call. Great. I think we can start. Hi, everyone, and welcome to our webinar on the importance of digital twins for Maximo and asset management. Before we start, I would just like to highlight some administrative tasks. Note that this webinar will be recorded and distributed post-webinar. All the attendees are currently set to listen-only mode, but feel free to post any questions or comments in the chat or question box, and we will address these at the end. Should you have any technical questions or problems, please log it with the GoToWebinar technical team in the form of a question mark or help section on the panel itself. Right, I will be handing you over to the host in a bit, but let me do an introduction of our speakers and Cohesive first. Working across all stages of the life cycle, Cohesive helps owner-operators embed digital ways of working that drive operational efficiency and enhance asset performance. Cohesive draws on core tech solutions to support its clients. These solutions include Bentley's Infrastructure Cloud, iTwin, and IBM Maximo, for which Cohesive is the largest implementer. Our speakers for today are Joseph Longin and Steve Marshall, both senior solution managers and both for asset performance services. So without further ado, let's dive in and hand over to our first speaker for today, Joe.
All right, thank you, Vicky, and welcome everybody to our webinar. So today, we really want you to take away a few things about the combination of digital twin solutions and Maximo and how they benefit each other and overall asset management. So a couple points for the session today we want to make is that by putting integrated data and visual context directly together for users continuously, regardless of where they're operating in the asset lifecycle, they can do their jobs more effectively and they can make better decisions. Now, in order to do this, we're going to talk a little bit about how effective data management is required and how that's crucial for supporting the whole life cycle of all your assets. And the second thing is about visual correlation in Maximo applications extends the usefulness of the whole Maximo application suite, filling some gaps that may hinder user adoption for your business processes and workflows that you utilize the Maximo application suite to achieve. So again, in order to do this, proper data preparation eases that path towards implementing digital twins, and this paves the way for valuable data utilization across your assets, not even just in Maximo, but in all of your systems. And digital twins play a significant role in enhancing decision making by providing that additional visual context and identifying correlations between data that may exist in separate systems and putting that into the hands of users in one place. We'll also address some important questions like, what do digital twins do for Maximo to deliver greater efficiency or reduce costs and improve your asset performance? What specific capabilities can digital twins provide to the Maximo applications and asset management business processes? And if we embed digital twin solutions in Maximo, how does this enhance data integration and decision making? So before we begin, I'm going to ask the team to open up our first live poll to ask you all some questions before we get into the rest of the content. So if you can take a look there, how familiar are you with the concept of digital twins and asset management? So we'd like to understand if you're already utilizing this, you're very familiar, you're still taking a look on how this may benefit you and your organization, or somewhere in between. We'll just leave the poll open for about 30 seconds to a minute here to get our answers in. And it looks like right now, the majority of answers are coming back somewhere in the middle, somewhat familiar. So we're happy that you're joining us today to gather some more information and insights towards this. So helps us to understand that the bulk of you, that this will be of great benefit to you today to talk through this. Um, but I think the good news there was that it was a very low percentage of people that were not familiar at all, right? So I think we're well beyond that stage, Steve, where, in the early days, it was just thought of as in theory. I think we're well beyond theory and we're seeing, much more live application.
Yeah, absolutely.
So why don't we start and this? So Steve, I'm going to turn it over to you for our first section on integration and contextualization with data management.
Great, thanks, Joe. So yeah, integration and contextualization. Why having a digital twin powered by master data management is important. Digital twins are much more than just show something in 3D. It's about bringing data together to do useful things with. So digital twins do play a crucial role across the whole asset lifecycle, or the asset management cycle. If you stay on the intro, chapter 1 for a moment,
Oh.
We require integration across a whole host of systems. There's a lot of systems used during the delivery and the operation and the improvement of assets, and you need to contextualize that data and pull it out from the systems. Digital twins expose that content, it exposes the relationships between the data, it correlates and gives you views into things that are not apparent through traditional methods and through your siloed systems. But trust is key. You need to know that your data is trustworthy in order to use it and get value from it. So you move on to the next slide, thanks. So I just want to step back a minute and talk about, seeing I'm in the UK, UK's Digital Built Britain initiative. That helps set the scene. Digital Built Britain is about moving further on from the business information management concept to really provide seamless integration, which allows workflows and data flows to operate smoothly throughout your asset lifecycle, right from the early stages of defining your requirements on what needs to be built, planning it, designing it, building it, through to the maintenance and the operation, using tools such as Maximo. And then beyond that, to actually the cost of optimizing and using and staffing the actual buildings, and of course onward to actually, well, these things are built for citizens and people to actually use the services. The cost of and the benefits around design and optimization are considerable. Larger in maintain and operate, but even larger in terms of just actually the day-to-day use, staffing, getting value out of these things that are built. So across all of these stages, access to trusted data is key to get benefit. And one of the challenges that they recognize and that we recognize is that you need a spine, a hub, a way of collecting that information so that your data can travel into and out of projects, because this isn't just a build, operate, go away thing. This is ongoing, complex design and improvement activities. So if you want to move on, Joe.
Absolutely.
That ability to find and view information across the whole life cycle is key. It's about helping users make timely decisions using trusted data. Presenting that data in a digital twin format, and what that means can be very extensive, but it's always about bringing in mapping data, simulation data, model data, dashboard data, documentation data, other information from your project delivery, project controls, finance, and so forth. We're talking cohesive about this infinity loop, starting in the middle there when you define your requirements for what is going to be built. That feeds into the design, the delivery strategy, data getting generated as these things are designed, passing through to build. The build is being checked against those requirements as it passes back towards operation and through handover. That continues on through maintenance and improvement, further design as new things are added to the infrastructure, to the building, and so forth. So it's a continuous loop, and it's always generating data. It's always generating information that needs to be checked back against requirements and needs to be fed through systems and tied together. If you want to move on to the next slide, that tying data together is what digital twins are for, providing a realistic, a dynamic digital representation of physical assets. You've got real physical assets out there. You've got systems that are capturing data. You've got engineering systems with your specs and your drawings and your documents and your models and your analysis and your geotech records, your specifications. You've got operational systems with the feeds from sensors. You've got data being captured by drones and cameras and LiDAR point cloud data, and information across from your common data environments and from your asset management systems, and those systems like Maximo and MAS creating maintenance records and so forth. So a whole host of systems storing the data, sometimes storing the data in different ways, sometimes storing slightly contradictory information about the physical assets. The digital twins challenge is to bring that data together into a form that can provide that spine, that backbone, that hub of trusted, aligned data. And if you can achieve trusted, aligned data, then you release the benefits, which are more than just what people tend to think of in digital twins, 3D immersive visualization. Yes, that's important, and that's going to be increasingly important. But analyzing that data, reporting on that data, viewing the changes over time, helping optimize your project delivery or your asset maintenance, feeding it into machine learning and AI and other reporting technologies. So if you can get trusted, aligned data and address the issues from those siloed systems, you can deliver reliable insights. And that's really what digital twins are about. But to get that trusted hub, you need to have trusted, mastered data, the master data management part of delivering a successful outcome, a successful, useful tool that people can actually look at the data and know it's true and know that they can make decisions on it, is a very, very important foundational element to a digital twin. So if you move on, Joe. In Cohesive, we have a data factory concept. Digital twins help new assets work harmoniously with existing ones. They help provide this comprehensive view of the entire system. But that's a challenge to get those pieces in place. And the data factory concept talks about this challenge very much in the sense of you're manufacturing, as a factory does, insights and useful outcomes. So you get information fed in, you've got your local systems, your asset management systems, your environmental systems, your IoT systems, your Maximo information, etc. Local data being created for good, useful reasons by those users has to be collected and has to be aligned into one source of truth. You then have to do things with that data to produce it into a form that's useful. There are lots of different use cases under the digital twin umbrella. Those all need data to be validated, curated, linked, and produce outputs. To produce that, you don't just need technology, you need sponsors to understand that this is important. You need to understand the use cases and the data and the digital services, and you need staff who are understanding and maintaining this factory, and they understand the importance of identifying the source systems, identifying the standards they use, and ensuring the mapping and the alignment between the data sets. So it's like a factory. You have this technology to produce the digital twin output. You have the data coming in as the raw materials. You're producing a product which needs a level of oversight and expertise. You've got the workforce providing that, and you have a supply chain providing data. So that factory is the hub, the spine of what generates a digital twin. And it's there that you do the master data management. You manage the terms and the class structures and the mappings that you need to bring data together. And to move on, Joe. And so to understand that data, you have to be able to look at it as it comes in. You've got people looking at the data quality management and reporting on the success of bringing data in, whether it's coming in against the standards that your company has defined or the requirements that have been put on the suppliers or the standards coming from the governmental bodies. So data services need to be there to look at what's coming in, to check the health, to report on the quality as it improves over time, to help people go back and address with the supply chain what's coming on incorrectly. And these data connect data health dashboards are key to that successful data spine that drives the digital twin experience.
Yep. And before we move on from this one, Steve, I'm going to relate back to this in a later part of our webinar on how, for many people using Maximo or the Maximo application suite struggle to understand, their data quality and, what processes or workflows they may need to put in place to correct data issues to best leverage a digital twin. So there's kind of two things there. This information we can actually connect to the view of the digital twin itself to show where those are present, and we're gonna showcase that a little bit later. And then the other piece here is that we could begin connecting data from multiple systems. So if all of your information isn't coming from your Maximo application suite and manage, then you may have IoT, financial systems, schedule management systems. The information based on your definitions of good, we can take a look where that information is coming. And if you have low trust in something, it's okay. You need to be able to identify that and then figure out what actually needs to be fixed.
And figuring out what needs to be fixed is absolutely key. It's not a case of saying, "Oh, your data's no good, we're not using it." Data in one system may be perfectly valid for the requirements that it was put there for, but it may be tagged in different ways to data in your asset management system. It may be tagged in different ways to how it's being managed in work orders. And those systems may have their own standards built over time. They are valid. Bring that in, map it, tie it together using data management, and generate some output that has merged the information. And and you need to know what's failing, because you need to know where these mappings are not working. You need to know where things are coming in that are not meeting certain standards. But it is about working with, understanding, and manufacturing useful output that can be focused on understanding the data quality in your Maximo system, understanding how it ties back to information coming out of the common data environment. There's a whole range, as you say, of things you can do here, Joe. But in all cases, it's about shining a light on the quality of the data. Because if you can shine a light on the quality and you can tell users what the issues are as well as what's good, then they trust the output.
Absolutely. And that adds, that affects the efficiency and the ability to make decisions in the organization, which were, prime goals that we wanted to talk about today. And the other takeaway, just one last thing on this, is that you can start where you are today, right? You don't have to be perfect to get started. And one of the biggest ways that you can do that is to get a good overall status and understanding, of where your systems are today. So visualizing that and seeing that in context of how you operate your assets is very important and can help speed along that data quality process as well.
That stage by stage is really important. That's right. Understand what the issues are now, what your priority things you need to improve are, and get those quick wins in to address them. This is not one big bang solution to build the world's best digital twin in one go. you do it stage by stage.
All right. Well, with that, before we go into the next section, we're going to ask our next poll question. So I'll ask the team to open up poll number 2. All right. So, realizing what we just talked about, what's the biggest challenge that your organization is facing when you're trying to integrate data from different systems? So, is it because the systems won't talk to each other? Is it because of the data quality? Is there that super high initial cost, versus the long-term ROI? Are there technical issues, or is it something else? So we'll just give a little bit of time here for the answers to come in. Currently, we're trending, between interoperability between systems and data quality being the highest concerns, or the highest challenges that you face. So it's kind of interesting.
And that ties very much with what we've seen with our clients: interoperability between systems, and can you trust the data that comes out of those systems, and can you align it?
Yeah. Yeah, so that bodes very well, Steve, for what you were describing before in the dashboard. The dashboard's helpful, especially for people that are in charge of managing data, like data analysts, business analysts, asset managers. But we'll show how, in just a short bit, how that's very useful to end users if we provide the information in context as well. So it looks like the highest amount of concern there is really about interoperability between systems, but data quality being a very close second. So for the next section, I'm going to talk a little bit about enhanced decision making. So if we understand the concept that we need to have, we always have known, I think many people know, you need to have good data. But if you have data and you have good data, or you have a mixed quality of data, putting some embedded digital twin solutions into your Maximo application suite, how can that enhance, our decision making? And then, how can we gain trust around that data? Because if we trust it, we gain valuable insights, and then we can make better decisions based on that. So just an overview of the concepts, from an infrastructure digital twin, what we refer to, is your ability to have your physical asset in a virtual representation. And that can be anything. It can be a digital scan. It can be 2D. It can be like wireframe drawings. It can be 3D. It can be photogrammetry, where you literally go out and do laser scanning, or just photogrammetry captures of the data. So it's actually much easier today to build the virtual representation, lower cost, easier point of entry. And then we want to gather together all those data sources that Steve talked about and put those in one place. So the benefits of doing this are, again, connecting disparate data systems, right? So I have data in different places, and we want to put that in context for all of your users, right? Not just single personas. Everybody in the organization can benefit from having access to that data at the right time for the right process they're trying to carry out. Reducing cost and project risk, we'll give some specific examples of that, right? So making faster decisions, and reducing risk by potentially putting people in harm's way, or by overperforming things like inspections and work that may not necessarily need to be done because you're not sure of what the current asset performance is. Putting that all in one place can help streamline that for the users, by, again, having them be able to see the data from multiple sources, not having to shift between different digital systems or business processes during their day-to-day work. And collaboration and transparency is big here, because we can have people like engineers working with technicians at the same time, looking at very similar data, while the engineering drawings may not mean as much to somebody that's just on the ground performing maintenance, and vice versa to an engineer who's looking at the initial designs. When we overlay that information, it brings those two personas together and allows them to understand in context what the other person is saying. So that improved collaboration, buys time and reduces cost. So, making those better decisions allows us to save money. Covered a lot of these benefits already. But, project overruns, if you talk about new projects, replacements, shutdown, turnaround operations, Being able to actually do a lot of that coordination that needs to be done through increased collaboration saves time, which can help to bring projects under budget, and it reduces risk because you don't have to put people in the field as often potentially to validate and verify information. And then data handover, between operations and say design and construction projects becomes much easier because the information is becoming available on both sides, right? So you can see operational data during new projects, so you can relate asset information back to that. And then for people on the outside, if you're providing product or you're providing a service, you can also provide this information to end users or to the public or whoever the clients are in this case to allow them to receive better information about what you're providing and what state it's in. So transportation is a great example of, I have a problem, using a train, I have a problem on a roadway, what are you doing about this? And you can actually start to provide that operational twin information to downstream users to show to them so that they get the context that, oh, you do know what my problem is and you're taking care of it. It's much easier than, them looking at a list of things that you're trying to do for them and for them to
Yeah,
understand that, yes, we have a problem in a specific area. So,
absolutely. And what that slide shows, isn't it, Joe, is that there's such a wide range of things that can be done in terms of improvements and outcomes under the digital twin umbrella. No, it's not I need a digital twin because of this. There's lots of different areas, and you need to choose and be clear what you're focusing on to start with. It can mean many things to many people, but it always comes down to getting the right data in front of people and the right information products.
yeah, yeah, the benefits, literally, like the benefits analysis that we do, the once you get people together and you start talking through in our workshops, the benefits literally just start falling out like rain, right? When you start talking about what if you had access to this faster, or you've never had access to it, or it's never been digital. It's very key. So tying together what you showed together in your quality dashboard previously, Steve, here's an example of both where we can have quality information indicators as well as asset performance indicators available in a representation here of a building with different systems. This is an early design model, but as the systems get turned on, as this is being handed over or potentially being commissioned, we can take a look at where maybe data and information from the design and construction project hasn't been turned over. So here we have information bulletins basically saying you don't have all the data that's necessary. And then we have potential performance issues, right? So we know how it's supposed to be operating. And this is where from the Maximo application suite, we can tie in things like asset health and predict, where we have an expected health score that may not be being met, on an asset that's being commissioned or that's already being operated, and we can showcase that. So, at a quick glance here from the visual context capability, I can see the different things that are occurring without having to go to specific dashboards, without having to read through lists, without having to run reports. I can get a very
Yeah,
accurate.
it's that visual context, isn't it, that is really at the heart of the digital twin, bringing your different data sets together and showing them in a way that's easily combined and is adding value by joining information and making it much more there in front of people so they can see the context and they can see the interrelationships between the information.
Yeah, yeah, and this ties together the different within the Maximo application suite, whether you have industry solutions, basically, any result of a query or some type of search context can be visualized on top of a digital representation, again, whether it's 2D, 3D, reality scans, to bring together people in context. So the visual piece is very powerful, but the benefit here is that there's engineering information, IoT information, health score information, all being contextualized in one place. So this can be used by supervisors and technicians working in the field. It can be utilized by engineers who are doing reliability work. They're basically saying, are we performing our maintenance strategy correctly to reduce failures, etc. So we can, use all those contextualized in one place to help people understand, what is it that I need to do today, and what is it, that's my priority. to do first. Now, linking out, we can gather different information from different systems directly than when we link out. So here's an example of sustainability information providing in-context insights, based on how assets are being operated. So you may be asked to reduce energy, and you can see here, energy usage and carbon utilization based on different breakdowns. So this is an example of tying that information from a separate sustainability system back into the Maximo insights and operational data. And then keen again to kind of what you showed before, Steve, with data quality is this is an overlay looking at assets where you've done a contextual search to find things based on asset criticality and show me where we have data quality issues. So this could be during construction handover, it could be during operations where I need to make a decision. This may be a terminal, coming off of a rail line, connecting with roadways, and I have a lot of problems in a particular area. So if I'm making decisions about how to plan work that's going to happen here, or providing feedback to a general contractor, this can help me find that information very quickly because it's taken reliability context from asset criticality, and it's connected operational details, IoT information, and quality. Where the system's essentially telling me you're not meeting expectations in this area, and it's drawing my attention to it.
It's drawing that attention and tying it back to those more traditional dashboard views, or feeding this into the 3D visualization, even the virtual reality visualization. In all cases, it's keeping that at your fingertips, keeping the context there so that it's much easier, much faster, much quicker to get to what you need to do your job.
And then the next one, so here we want to talk about the capability to save time and reduce risk. So we've worked a lot with with folks using the Maximo application suite. A lot of the roles will involve planners, project managers, asset managers, supervisors, and so one of the key things here is the ability again to here we have a 3D visualization of a system where we may have a problem and we need those people to interact together. So we can bring together data, and the value here is that by forming this digital twin concept, we've integrated data together and we've allowed for that contextualization to seamlessly happen between people in different roles. So, an idea here is I might need to come in here and update job plans or PMs based on interacting with technicians in the field. Here I can see some contextual data by saying, I know they've had a problem with these shutoffs. Here you can come in and find the context of what that is. This pulls in operational information from the Maximo application suite as well as engineering design. And then it also has, quality, information and IoT data that's coming in that forms part of the Maximo health score. This can then be further utilized because quality data is needed to use the predict capability that's part of the Maximo application suite. So by pulling this information together, we can actually provide the data that's necessary to form those simulations and predictions, as well as using things like visual insights, where we may actually want to run a scan or use a drone to perform an inspection, and then it can actually go back and it can relay that information against the system, and you can see it here in context. All right. And if at any point, if there's any questions, please go ahead and place them in the chat, and we'll definitely pick up on those as we go through, and the team will let us know if we have those. So Steve, I'm going to hand it over to you for the next section.
Yeah, so I'll talk a bit more about the challenge of data. I mean, you've shown there some great examples of how you get value once you've got your data together and you've interlinked it and you've shown it in context, either in the BI reports or the 2D map or the 3D visualization. Why is it so hard sometimes people find to actually get value out of this information? Partly it's because often we're working with clients here who are building large pieces of infrastructure, large programs over multiple years, or they're operating plant that has been there 30, 40, 50 years, and the data has grown over time from pre-IT. So digital twins, no, they need to support the entire life cycle. They need to bring data in from the design, from the build, from the engineering, and into the maintenance operation, and they need to display it consistently, and it needs to be captured consistently, and it needs to be delivered by the supply chain consistently. I'll talk a bit. I'll do a couple of slides that show and talk through why is that complex, and what you need to do to help get on top of that and put some controls in place. So next slide, please. And again, this sort of builds on those building information management concepts that information, just like documentation, needs to get defined and delivered and collected. Infrastructure and asset owner operators have an information management challenge, and the longer you've been operating your infrastructure, or the larger the things that you're building, the estate or the set of programs that you're managing, the bigger this challenge is. Over on the left in the project information model, during your capital delivery project, you are receiving or generating asset information and project information. That asset information is procured through the design and the construction and the commissioning to ensure that you get deliverables that are compliant and that are coordinated between the suppliers. Just as in documentation, understanding that people are delivering the right documents with the right codes, it becomes even more important as you capture asset data and maintenance data and so forth. So you're capturing increasing amounts of asset information as your program goes on, or as you're operating and maintaining your plant. And you've got project information, the more purple side there, the information procured from your suppliers during the design, during the construction, during the maintenance, during the building of new additions to your plant. And that information is also being captured and being delivered through common data environments and data drops and so forth. It builds over time as you go through your gateways and your milestones. And traditionally, it sort of builds over time, and then you get to a point there in the middle where it's like lockdown, job done, hand it over to operations, and you get a whole load of stuff dropped to get sorted out by the operations team. What's key is not to get one key load of stuff dropped. It's to populate what you need through regular, frequent, less onerous information exchanges. So those browny yellow data drops, make sure you know and you've contracted what is supposed to be delivered. Make sure you're checking what's coming in at each point. Make sure you're getting what you need to get, and don't necessarily capture every last thing that gets delivered. A lot of that project information can be archived and stored for a certain amount of time, but doesn't need to go into your asset information model. So the operations side is key as you capture, as you hand over, that you build it up over time through these information exchanges, and that as you do these exchanges, you are checking using the data management, the data compliance, that what's coming in is what was asked for, both in terms of how it's tagged, how it's named, and obviously, it's doing what it's supposed to do. So if you move on to one more slide, this on a large infrastructure project, there's a lot of systems involved, and data flows from suppliers to the operators through lots of systems, through lots of stages. Those systems may be owned and controlled by yourself, but they may well be, and they always are, they're also with the supply chain. So over on the left, you've got suppliers delivering packages and pieces of work, and you've got teams in those suppliers working in their team management systems, in their design systems, in their CDEs, in their SharePoint systems. Those teams are having to share data and submit data into probably the supplier's own common data environment, which may or may not be set up with the same standards and using the same codes and the same asset breakdown structures as yours. Often not, because they've started the work before all the standards are in place, or they've been using all their own standards. So lots of good reasons why they need to do that, and each supplier is doing their own thing to a certain level of consistent standardization. That needs to get delivered in. You've got a contract line where you're receiving information and you should be conforming that it is meeting its requirements, both its what it needs to do, but also is it being delivered in the right form with the right tags, with the right standard terms and so forth. That will be collected into some form of common data environment or environments. You may be getting your Esri data and your P6 data and your Prism data and your BIM 360 data into different systems. So you've got a level of data management and compliance to check and to align. And it's not a case of you've done it wrong, go and do it again. No, often it is you've done it that way. We need to map and work out how we tie this together and how things change over the stages, and you get stricter as your delivery stages go on. But that data then gets brought into that hub, that data factory, that data backbone, various names for it, but a place that it's being collected and it's providing both a useful store and it's feeding those digital twin use cases. So that goes out and is either feeding out to systems or also bringing in data from your own systems, the sensors on the actual infrastructure, the information from your being generated into the analytics, the various applications that are being used to maintain this. And obviously, we hope Maximo MAS is a key part of that asset information management in the future. So there's always a flow, there's back and forth between here, there's different handovers. You need to be able to acquire, manage and exploit that data during the design phase, during the construct phase, during commissioning, during handover, during maintenance. And you've got to have data management to validate and align that data to deliver that trusted catalog, so you know what is where and you know what standards it's using and you're tying it together and you're just providing a resource that can be used and can link into or can consume from your various key systems.
Yeah, it's key. I think you mentioned it, Steve, on this one, is that the information flow here is bi-directional, right? So,
yeah,
during, because as you mentioned, like most folks using the Maximo application suite are operating assets that may be very, very old, or they may constantly be getting new assets through upgrades or new capital projects while they're still operating, existing infrastructure. So making decisions on how to better use, essentially all that cost from capital projects is supposed to deliver, new assets that will last for, a very, very long time, whatever their intended lifetime is, and provide a purpose. Is that, if you traditionally have just been given project handover documents where you get a list or you get, an Excel spreadsheet and say, here's all your new assets, and then they give you a walkthrough and now you're responsible for operating it. This can allow us to start to see those assets earlier in the Maximo application suite by bringing in assets, locations, and systems that are in a not ready status. You can test by building new sites, inside of Maximo, and essentially taking a look at, well, if I'm responsible for creating an operating budget for this, how much is it going to cost me to maintain it? I can look at my current operational information for similar like assets, and I can feed that information back, and look at, what are the requirements of this new system? How much is a pump supposed to provide? How much energy am I passing, through a new switch gear? Regardless of what that information is, there's always value in getting information from the original design requirements, and handover information earlier and sooner. But there's also insights, to provide back to new capital projects by showcasing, here's the current problems we have in operations. We'd like to fix these so we don't repeat them the next cycle, or the next project that we perform. All right. This next section is about just talking a little more about Maximo as part of the digital twin. Maximo is already part of that digital twin concept, right? So, you have both digital information on operations, maintenance, reliability, inventory, potentially financial and staffing information, all available to you, and depending on how much of the Maximo application suite that you're utilizing. So, where does that fit into these overall concepts? Well, we showcase that there's a couple different layers to this. So, foundational systems, across the whole life cycle, provide, information that's either informative or descriptive. So, we can have information about asset performance and the data that's all provided via the Maximo application suite into the larger digital twin. So, not only will Maximo users benefit from the integrated information, but you can also provide this information to others. Engineering systems, financial evaluation, capital project delivery. The information is available because Maximo is a foundational system where it's the system of record for specific information. Layer 2 of that is basically where we have all the data management, right? So if we're going to integrate those and bring them together, then we have to perform the master data management that Steve's been talking about. How do we validate that and contextualize it? We need to be able to integrate those together. We need to take different models that have been created, and basically here we're connecting those together and making them available wherever they're needed by different users. And then layer 3 is where you actually experience it. So this is where you can get search capability, oversight, visualization, perform prediction. So this is where you can, again, this is where in the Maximo application suite, we want to take advantage of that data to do things like utilize all of Manage's capabilities. We want to use things like monitor, help, and predict, as well as the industry solutions, reliability libraries, or reliability strategies. All of these will benefit more by getting information that's available not only from the Maximo application suite, but from other integrated systems. So multiple layers to that. And so we've showcased in a couple of different ways, and we have some information available on our site. We have some videos recorded if you'd like to take a look at those, where we showcase that informative data, whenever you've added it to a system and made it available in context, again, of inventory, work orders, maintenance activities, all become interoperable so that you can find, visualize, analyze, and simulate information to provide more efficiency from the system that you've invested in. So let's talk about the benefits as we get towards the end. We want to leave time for Q&A here. So Steve, we know we wanted to showcase, how we can provide better efficiency, reduce costs, and improve performance. What are your overall thoughts on, like, what does a digital twin outside of Maximo provide in the way of benefits?
Now, as we discussed, there are a huge range of benefits and a huge range of concepts people have when they think of the digital twin. For me, it all starts initially with that find. Now, I, as a user, when we go to our clients, I can't find stuff. Now, I've got large numbers of systems. I've got information delivered over 30 years, or we've got a huge amount of supply chain delivering information. I can't find things. I need a unified view of these disconnected systems, the BIM, the IoT, the GIS, and so forth. So it's easy to search and access all that information in one place. If you can find it and you know it's useful to you, then you may easily avoid 2 weeks of trawling through systems to find what you need. If you can find it and show it in context, and it's on a map showing where you are and what you're about to touch, or it's in a 3D view, that's even more useful. Instant access to data is perhaps because of my data background over 30 years. That's I keep going on about data and the difficulty in finding it. That's really useful. If you've got the data, you get the faster decisions. You can build the insights. You can feed it into simulation, and obviously AI is important and increasingly important. That needs trusted data to get trusted insights through AI. Predictive maintenance and operational efficiency requires truth in terms of what assets are out there, what information you're getting in about the state of that asset. Smarter design, virtual testing, being able to simulate what you're going to do as you rework an existing asset. And of course, 3D visualization and high definition headsets, that's important in digital twin. That's I don't want to downplay that engaging with the public, engaging with senior leaders and showcasing the amazing new thing you're going to build is also part of the digital twin story. So there's a very wide range. So when people say I want a digital twin, it's like, great, what's the outcome you're trying to solve first?
Yeah, so I'll interpret that in terms of the Maximo application suite, right? How we extend and fill those gaps we talked about. So, previously I was a facilities manager for many years, and we used Maximo very extensively. And I can specifically remember, having engineers call me as a supervisor. I was managing trades, and they would say, we're getting reported problems in a specific area, maybe high energy use, or we have the users of those facilities or operating a line that's producing something. They're basically reporting an issue, and it's supposed to be doing X, right? So they would often take a look at the original operating information, basically saying an asset's supposed to produce X. So a pump might need to provide a certain number of gallons per minute of a certain type of fluid under these conditions. And then I would talk to my technicians, and they would say, well, that's not how it really works, right? Here's how it was installed. After they actually installed it, they maybe didn't include all parts of the system. We don't have sensors where we need them. So there's some difference between the as-built real world operation that, from the original design. And to track down, that information took us a lot of time. We were calling each other. We were looking in systems, sometimes literally going to filing cabinets. So, one of the benefits there to the contextualization that we showed previously is the ability for, in this case, maybe an engineer and a supervisor and a technician to look together, at the same system virtually. They don't need to go on site. So this is where we can be safer. We don't need to, maybe we have, restricted access. We have, we might have to, consider lockout tagout in certain cases. We might have, basically personal protective equipment and other scenarios that we have to follow just to access an area to see it. So if I can take a look at that in context, and I can have the technician have operational details from manage that show me when PMs were being done, we're increasing our inspection frequency because, it's not operating, and we've done, a repair replacement, work order this many times because it's just simply not working correctly. But the engineer wants to show me that the original design, showed it in a different orientation. It maybe was a different provided by a different vendor. So now I'm capturing operational information as well as engineering information as well as performance data in one place. And if you're trying to use something like Maximal Health, then you're building a health dashboard, but you need to understand what's behind it. If I don't have that good health, we have to make a decision on how do we correct it, right? So pulling all that together in one place, very, very important.
It's pulling it together, absolutely. And yeah, you might have a LiDAR view of what's actually been built. That's what's there now with IoT feeds on. This is actually what's happening. You may have the 3D design that you can access. You may have scans of PDF documents that have been AI analyzed to work out what components and what buildings are in there, and you can link people back to this old textual-based documentation. And ideally, you can link them back to the requirements of why was this built in the first place? What was it supposed to do? And if you can bring all that together, it makes people's lives and the effective operation and maintenance far, far easier. Yeah.
So just looking at our time, I want to allow time for QA, but I wanted to share just, this is an example of some clients that we've worked with recently, all various reasons why they wanted to, improve reliability, improve their business processes, create a system of truth for their work management information, integrating, IoT information, or creating roadmaps for improving their usage of Maximo, their investment in that digital technology. So all those benefits that we talked about, all those use cases that we just kind of ran through of how if we apply a digital twin concept to that and bring in additional information from other systems, all benefits all of these business processes, right? So here we're talking about extending asset life and reducing maintenance costs. And we have some pre-configured solutions that we apply, in these cases. And for some of you, you may already be in using the Maximo application suite. Others may be considering moving from an older version of Maximo into the Maximo application suite and questioning, in this case, what value does it provide me? How would digital twins make it better, right? So these are things you need to consider. Multiple areas here, whether it's integrations, customization that you may have, whether you're going to host it or it's on-prem, skills required, security and compliance. We take all of these into consideration when we're looking at applying, these concepts and solutions to your systems. But we have some templates that we use that reduce the implementation time, which increase or decreasing that time, through implementation allows you to begin and become more productive faster. Increased reliability comes through, again, in this case, having all that information in one place, allowing you to make decisions faster. Implementing things like reliability strategies that allow you to take advantage of things like your root cause analysis. You may be, practicing different RCA concepts in doing FMEAs. All of that information now can be utilized inside the Maximo application suite. And by doing that, the cost savings by reducing deferred maintenance, doing maintenance in the right places, extending uptime, reduces the total cost of ownership. And adoption of using your Max tool by more people actually provides more ROI because the cost of implementing and maintaining the digital solution is impacting and providing more benefit to more people across your business. So before we jump into the Q&A, we want to make available to everybody, free mass evaluation. And this is, basically we dive into the technical and functional readiness, whether it's upgrades between versions. Some of you may be in Mass 8 looking to go to Mass 9. New capabilities like new industry solutions, mobile, with Maximo Mobile, or potentially transitioning again from an older version of Maximo like 7.6.x to the Maximo application suite. We go through and we can provide free evaluations. There's a QR code there, very easy to scan. Jump in and our team will contact you directly to make that happen. And all of the digital twin concepts that we talked about are all available to talk to you about how we can make those happen today. And by how doing that and providing that operational insight, right away, regardless of where you are, can start to provide, instant value and kind of challenge maybe some of the business issues that you've had, and why it's valuable to, to correct those issues before you move forward or while you're operating. So with that, I'll take these last few minutes. I want to open it up to, any questions that we have.
First question, gentlemen, how do digital twins integrate with existing systems like Maximo? I think you basically talk a lot about this, some kind of short summary of this.
Yeah, how it integrates is, so there's two parts to this. So the part that Steve, you talked about with master data management is first, we look at how the different things are related. So in multiple systems, they're often named differently. The databases can be completely different in terms of the type of information that's collected. So
yeah, the tags might not be there. You might have paper documents, PDF documents that need scanning. So it's about linking things, providing that intelligence and that mapping to tie information together into Maximo, or to tie views in Maximo out to the other supporting material, other supporting systems.
Yep. Yeah, we do data evaluations, and we have a solution, our Data Connect solution, where we actually query those different systems that you want to integrate, and then we actually take a look at how they can be mapped together. And we can provide some upfront reporting. So even if they are in a different state, we can still relate different objects. So often we will relate items from like 2D, P&ID, 3D, where there's elements there that will relate to assets, locations, systems, or components. And by making that relationship, we simply, and it's not a customization, we add some application changes into Maximo and some tables that allow us to actually integrate and map those items together. And so even if you don't have good system integration capabilities today, we can do it very, very low level and provide an operational twin that's kind of as is, right? And that will start to showcase to you where you maybe have data quality issues. We can add the data quality dashboards from the data connect evaluation. So it can be very, very light, where some organizations have done a critical evaluation of one new facility, or maybe they've had somebody come in and, and do a review and do laser scanning, or we can literally walk around with a cell phone with photogrammetry and do a context capture and then create, an actual visual if you don't have your own visuals. And then we can
Yeah.
simply link objects from that scan to to assets and locations at a minimum level to give you a starting point. So we can do all, anywhere from that level to a very advanced level where, organizations already have something that does their mapping, and they simply want to connect that, with visual context to their Maximo data.
And yeah, it is about helping understand the issues of the data, the important things in the data, what's missing, and how to map it. It's not a case of, we'll do an assessment, your data's poor, sorry, you can't help, or go to your supply chain and get them all to do it again properly this time. It's work with what's there, provide that mapping, look at the important stuff, because those are the key fields and those are the key outcomes you need to do. And the technology to tie that together is what is out there, and it's what we have, and it's work with what's there now. Don't make something useful rather than, sorry, it's all no good, go and do it again, which doesn't go down so well. Absolutely.
Yeah, we use an agile approach, where the users are. So we've reached the end of our time. I just wanted to, were there any other questions, Kat?
Yes, we have one more, I think, important question. Do you need iTwin from Bentley? Can you integrate with other platforms outside Bentley? And the second is similar. Does Cohesive work as standalone? So maybe you provide answer on this, and we end with this answer.
Yeah. Cohesive provides capabilities for Maximo both within the Bentley suite as well as outside the Bentley suite. So we have many organizations that come in with a complex, system of systems that they want to integrate. And so, we've worked with, all kinds of platforms with various, integrations. So yes, the capability can work, outside of that. Being part of Bentley, we obviously have specific solutions that are worked as part of that. But we do have the ability to show you, in a proof of concept, without you diving into, and buying anything new or utilizing any new systems, how we can, showcase that digital twin capability in Maximo for you.
Yeah, and understanding the data issues, doing the data assessments, reporting back on what's needed, which systems to link to, that can all be done without delivering the final technology. Now, the technology stack, yes, obviously there are some very good technologies inside Bentley, and iTwin is very core to our preferred view of a digital twin, but it isn't baked in. It's not part of the offering if that's not what's needed. And we can link to any other technology that's out there to provide similar solutions.
Okay, gentlemen, thank you for all this webinar and provide such a great answer for our question. And thank you all participants to be with us here. And if you have any question, please reach out. We will also send you email with the link to video material from this webinar. So Joe, few seconds for conclusion and we are done.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, we hope that you realized that digital twins are a powerful tool for extending and enhancing the functionality of Maximo and the Maximo application suite to perform asset management and whole life cycle asset management. And Steve, I think the second point is squarely yours, around
data. I keep going on about data, that's not a thing, but yeah, data preparation is important, but there is a path to do this. Now, we have straightforward ways of doing it, understanding your data, helping cleanse and map that data, bringing it together, working with what's there rather than saying, no, you need multiple years to correct it. We can work with what's there and pave the way for those trusted visualizations. And useful, powerful, valuable insights that you then get out of digital twins.
So with that, I want to thank Kat and Elke for helping us organize, all of the attendees for visiting us today. Thank you, Steve, for the conversation. And we'll be sending out, as they said, information to all the attendees. It'll probably be available via our website, so visit us at cohesivesolutions.com. Thank you very much.
Great, thank you.